A wave of frustration is palpable among many Michigan voters who once staunchly supported Donald Trump. They remember the high energy of past campaigns, the packed rallies, and the promises of economic prosperity that would revitalize local communities. Today, however, those feelings have soured into betrayal as their hopes collide with a harsher reality than anticipated. Across Detroit, Grand Rapids, and smaller towns, the sentiment is consistent. Life has become more difficult, not easier. The promised economic revival feels distant, overshadowed by news of job cuts and escalating living costs. Layoffs at local auto plants are cited by some as a primary indicator that the expected resurgence is failing to materialize. Neighbors who previously championed Trump's agenda now share anxieties about mounting bills. The persistent rise in grocery and fuel prices strains household budgets, creating tension across the state. Where enthusiasm once thrived, a growing sense of anxiety and resentment has taken root. Local businesses like restaurants and shops operating on tight margins have been forced to raise prices due to supply chain disruptions. Customers feeling the pinch themselves are cutting back on spending. Business owners acknowledge that the optimism they once felt is rapidly diminishing. Disappointment also stems from trade policies initially touted to bolster American manufacturing. Instead of gaining competitive advantages, many companies find their expenses increasing. Tariffs on metals and other essential materials have driven up operational costs, pushing some factories towards potential closure. The perceived influence of Elon Musk within the administration adds another layer to the frustration. Many voters question the role of a tech mogul without a defined government position, fearing his proximity to power serves personal ambitions rather than the interests of ordinary citizens seeking economic relief. Disgruntled voices often recall promises of lower taxes and more affordable goods. Tariffs imposed on Canada have generated confusion and anger, particularly in border cities like Detroit. Cross-border families, accustomed to easy movement, now face a climate of mistrust fueled by these policy shifts, damaging long-standing relationships. Community meetings in local halls have become tense. Residents express frustration that their concerns seem to be ignored. Elected officials once closely aligned with Trump's agenda are often absent, avoiding the open discussions they previously promised. This silence deepens voter resentment. Veterans have been particularly outspoken about feeling neglected. Having served their country, they expected strong support and improved access to health care. Instead, they report delayed benefits, understaffed VA clinics, and bureaucratic hurdles. For those who risked their lives, these experiences amplify the sense of betrayal. Healthcare workers describe overwhelmed facilities struggling under budget constraints. This distress is especially acute in rural areas where resources are already scarce. Lack of adequate funding contributes to staff shortages in rural hospitals, potentially compromising patient care. Many voters emphasize that these issues are deeply personal, not just political abstractions. They are grappling with the fundamental challenge of affording everyday necessities. Family budgets are stretched thin by soaring energy bills while wages stagnate or decline. Aspirations like buying a new car or funding a child's college education feel increasingly unattainable. The fear of losing homes is a tangible reality in parts of Michigan once filled with optimism. Foreclosures are becoming more common, trapping people in a cycle where rising costs and unpredictable income prevent financial stability and future planning. Discontent has found an outlet on social media, where videos and posts detailing shattered expectations gain traction. The anger targets both Trump and Musk, figures once admired as innovators and leaders, now often perceived as disconnected from the daily struggles of average households. In communities where "Make America Great Again" flags were once prominent symbols of hope, gestures of rejection now appear. While the slogan itself may still resonate for some, many feel the promised path has led them astray. They see mounting debt, diminishing social programs, and uncertain futures instead of progress. Protests in Detroit and Windsor highlight regional opposition to policies viewed as detrimental to cross-border relations. Families lament how tariffs and political rhetoric have strained ties with Canadian relatives and friends. Industries heavily reliant on trade, such as agriculture, are feeling the pressure of market uncertainty. Farmers discuss rising fertilizer costs and restricted access to certain trade channels, forcing some to cut labor or scale back production. Survival, rather than profit, has become the primary concern. The administration's communication style has often failed to soothe tensions. Frequent social media pronouncements rarely address the everyday economic realities people face, instead sparking debates about whether the focus is on genuine problem-solving or online posturing. Voters express a desire for clarity and decisive action. Business leaders report that high tariffs are deterring potential partners wary of escalating costs and punitive actions. This climate of uncertainty makes Michigan less attractive for new investment, causing plans for expansion and collaboration to stall. Local governments attempt to fill the gaps in social services resulting from federal cuts. Food banks and charities are operating at maximum capacity, struggling to meet the increasing needs of unemployed and underemployed residents. Volunteers witness a growing number of families seeking assistance each week. Individuals relying on state-funded programs, including disability services and education grants, express dismay over reduced support. Rising tuition costs and fewer available grants make higher education less accessible for many Michigan families, contradicting earlier promises of opportunity. This disillusionment extends beyond economics to the overall tone of national discourse. Some residents feel that relentless social media conflicts overshadow productive conversations about solving critical issues, fostering division rather than unity even within local communities. In response, communities once considered administration strongholds are forming new alliances. Regional networks involving workers, faith leaders, and local politicians are emerging to address unemployment and healthcare challenges independently. Their message is one of self-reliance. If federal help isn't forthcoming, they must find their own solutions. A sense of urgency drives these grassroots efforts. Organizers worry about irreversible decline in parts of Michigan if more factories close or basic needs remain unmet. While small compared to federal power, these initiatives offer a measure of hope. Older voters articulate their disappointment, reflecting on the faith they placed in promises of a simpler, more secure life. Instead, they face financial hardship, amplified by concerns over potential cuts to Social Security and threats to pensions. Younger voters are also voicing criticism. Some regret supporting an agenda they now see as undermining environmental protections and social safety nets. They question the priorities of an administration seemingly focused on spectacle over substance, leaving future generations to deal with the consequences. Public anger continues to build as people confront significant challenges with few apparent solutions. Calls to representatives go unanswered, and town halls often leave residents with more questions than answers. This frustration fuels discussions about shifting political allegiances. Musk's involvement remains a point of suspicion for many. His role is unclear in an administration pledged to empower average citizens, not tech billionaires. The high-tech jobs he represents don't seem to be replacing the traditional manufacturing roles lost in auto and steel plants. Jobs, often union-backed, that historically provided stability for generations of Michigan families. They feel brushed aside in favor of corporate interests. Anger over budget priorities resonates deeply. Veterans reiterate the obstacles faced in accessing care at underfunded clinics. Parents of children with special needs struggle to afford essential therapies as public programs face cuts. Protests feature signs displaying final pay stubs and canceled health plans, underscoring that these are real-life crises, not abstract policy debates. The growing worry is that unresolved tensions will lead to deeper societal divisions. Many former enthusiastic supporters have permanently abandoned symbols like the red caps, now preoccupied with their next paycheck, medical bills, and children's futures. This significant shift in sentiment raises doubts about whether trust in the administration can be restored. The promise of national revival feels hollow when daily life is dominated by economic uncertainty. Voters who once passionately believed in Trump's message now question if they were simply left behind. Michigan's frustration reflects a broader national trend of rising living costs, stagnant incomes, and eroding faith in leadership. Community gatherings increasingly emphasize a demand for tangible solutions, not just slogans. At its core, the crisis reflects a desire for honest governance, accountability, effective job creation strategies, and policies that support families. Until the administration addresses these pressing concerns with clarity and urgency, the disillusionment among its former Michigan supporters is likely to persist, and the opportunity to regain their trust appears to be narrowing.